Presentation of Mr. Ujjwal Chakraborty. The National Award-winning writer began his creative journey as a painter, illustrator, under the guidance of Satyajit Ray and later gained fame as a film aesthete. Alongside teaching, he has directed several short films. As a Satyajit Ray scholar, he holds international recognition. May I call on the stage Mr. Ujjwal Chakraborty, sir, please, sir. And I would invite Dr. Jhumur Dattagupta to please come and felicitate, sir. And this is for everyone, just anecdote kind of a thing. Since the theme of the conference is representing the unseen, this time the gifts that we have given to everyone, including the participants, are Potochitro and or Ma Durga's face made of Shola, both of which are practiced by the people whom we generally tend to forget. So it is just to honor and showcase their talent that we have given that as a gift. I hope you all will like it. So that is the. Can I now request Dr. Snehasi Shur, Snehasi to please come and take charge of the session. So, the post-lunch session, the plenary theme is live on the margins through various mass media. For that, we have Professor K.G. Suresh and Mr. Ujjwal Chakraborty, who would be the keynote speakers for the afternoon. First, I would invite Professor K.G. Suresh to please come and deliver his keynote address. See, we have read a bio of KG sir. So we both worked in rival agencies. So to call, I was with UNI, he was with PTI, and for the longest period of time, I have admired his work as a journalist. A lot more people know him as an academician, but let me tell you, he was an astute journalist. And we used to wait to read Mr. K.G. Suresh's bylines, which were very rare in the agencies to get a byline. It was usually, your initial was KGS. So we knew what the initials are, and we used to wait. And he has covered some of the most tumultuous times of India. Some of the most tumultuous times. And his speciality was to cover strife-torn area. So you can understand the amount of balance. And mind you, PTI and UNI, they had this philosophy of cutting a story right down the middle. There are some stories, it is very difficult to cut right down the middle. And in all his coverage, one of the main reasons why we thought that we would begin the first session with KG is because he had never forgotten the voice of the unheard. That is his credit. That is, I think, is his gold star as a journalist. Can I have a big round of applause for Mr. K.G. Suresh?
Thank you, Arindam, for those kind words. the Honorable Chair of the session, my friend Dr. Sneha Sur. He was also my colleague at Doordarshan, and Professor Ujjwal, and eminent faculty members who are present here, and dear scholars and students. I've already spoken at the inaugural session, though briefly, and I would like to, I don't want to elaborate on those points because I think that those have been covered by other speakers as well. But I want to focus on this, the underlying theme of our national conference, national conclave, that is representing the unseen India at the margins and media. You see, one, as I've already spoken about, national media versus or vis-a-vis the regional language media. And as I said that I am on the panel of so many national awards, including the Ramnath Goenka jury, Ladli Media Awards. And I keep seeing so many entries, and I can assure you, and particularly those who are actually charmed by the glamour of the electronic media and the English media, that the actual journalism is taking place in language media. Because they are working at the grassroots level. So we need to understand this. I have already said that, the commercial part is there. So when you talk about commercial, one is, of course, who is paying for the production. The second part of commercial is that when you become a corporate from a media, from the fourth estate, from the fourth pillar of democracy, you become a corporate entity, and in fact, you had one of the leading owners of a leading newspaper, in fact, considered to be India's largest newspaper, biggest newspaper. He had very openly said that he doesn't find any difference between selling a soap and selling a newspaper. So if that is the attitude with which we are running media houses, then we really need to, look at it from a different perspective. So, as I said, the economics works even in coverage. How much money are we going to spend? One of the reasons why the evening session at one of the reasons why the evenings in the studios came alive, you had, I often say that, two major developments in India in the last 75 odd years. One is the urbanization of India, and the second is the Arnabization of media. So what we have done is that the evening hours have now been turned into kangaroo courts, and you have heated debates on very superficial issues. Now this trivialization, where somebody has said something on the X, and based on that you have a bitter, even leading up to fisticuffs in the studios, that you have seen in some Hindi television channels also. I don't know much about Bangla channels or the regional channels, but English and Hindi, I see the kind of, except very few exceptions, you find that today there is hardly any ground reporting. Language media is the only place where you still have ground reporting. You have replaced correspondence with stringers in all the important, places. So a stringer is attached to you only for an honorarium, and at times, I'm sorry to say, you have a model in which the newspapers, and I'm talking about some of the leading newspapers in Hindi, what they do is that they give an identity card to the journalist and tell him that here is your ID card. So you earn for yourself, earn your salary. It's a self-finance mode, and earn for us also. get advertisements for us, get revenues for us, plus you earn your salary. We don't care so long as you are giving us this much revenue every month. If that becomes the model, where it has been turned into a franchisee, where you have to earn yourself, then it is a matter which is really, worrying. So in that circumstances, how do you expect the media to represent the unseen India at the margins, as you said? Now, there are a couple of things which also I would like to highlight. When you are talking about where are the unseen people in the media, that is also another important question that you should be asking. When I was the Director General at Indian Institute of Mass Communication, we did a seminal study on the status of women in South Asia in collaboration with the Indian Council of Social Science Research. And we conducted studies across 7 countries. This was in collaboration with the South Asia Women's Network. And there were 2 aspects which we were studying, because we count the women also in the margins. So this study is very important. There are 2 aspects of the study. One, how women are projected in the media, and what is the status of women working in media. I just wanted to highlight one major finding. You would be surprised to know that majority of the media houses did not have, at that point of time, did not have an internal complaints committee, ICC, as per the Vishaka guidelines of the Supreme Court. You know what happened in the Tehelka case. There was an attempt to cover it up. A big leading name in the industry was involved. And there was an allegation by an intern of exploitation. But the then editor, who despite being a woman, the allegation was that she tried to cover it up for the owner rather than help out the journalist in question. And that became a big issue. And of course, subsequently, there was another incident in which he was arrested in Goa. But the whole thing is that you have this episode where we come to know that, the ICC, so one is the commodification of women in media. So you have seen it in advertising and all that. In the recent past, there has been a change. The women are no more confined to the kitchen in the advertisements. There are working women also. And once in a while you have an advertisement showing a man working in the kitchen, but which is very rare. But if you look at Hindi channels and regional channels, there are still advertisements where you have no reason why a woman should feature in a men's innerwear advertisement. Or for that matter, what has a bikini-clad woman got to do with a premium car? So there are these things. I remember once getting into a debate with a journalist on a prominent channel. He said that, we don't show images. If you remember, maybe you may not remember, say 20 years back, maybe some of you were not even born, whenever any atrocity on women happened, the visual was the woman covering her face. That was the visual. The woman used to cover her face. I mean, it was in fact the guy who was the culprit who should be covering his face. Why should the woman be covering the face? The victim should be covering the face. So, this gentleman told this audience, an august audience like this, that, we don't show these images anymore. We don't use derogatory terminology against the women in our coverage. But then I interjected. I said that so long as you are showing these kind of advertisements after the program, after the awareness program that you are boasting about, it really does not make any sense, Because the program is once in a blue moon, a program on women empowerment. But this advertisement is coming every 15 minutes, which is commodifying women. So, it is important that, these studies, they have highlighted how media, the representation of women in media and the stature and the status of women working in media. Now, I am not at all in favor of, I'm not saying that I am an advocate of caste-based reservations in media. I'm not saying that. I'm not advocating that. But the media on its own should take the initiative to ensure that every segment, there are people from every segment of the society in the media in important leadership roles. It should not be confined only to people from certain states, certain communities, the idea should be, I remember a friend of mine who was picked up by an international channel. He was a good, competent person. I'm not denying his competence. But there were far more competent people in the channel, who had gone for that job interview, but they were not picked up. But this friend of mine was picked up because he was wearing a turban. And they felt that we should have a turbaned gentleman on the show, because they would be representing a certain, community. And the community would feel that, yes, maybe when this gentleman is there, our voice would also be heard. And there are, particularly in transnational channels, international channels, you see people from different colored backgrounds and other, backgrounds being deliberately picked up. We also, and Snehashish knows it, in Doordarshan also, when it comes to news anchors, we also try to bring in people from different parts of the country. So, particularly we try to bring in people from Northeast, people from other segments. But it should not be symbolic. It should not be tokenist. That you are being taken, your only qualification is that you have been taken because you belong to a particular community. You are deserving, and there are many in the race for it, and you have been selected out of them because of your competence. But at the same time, you also represent different sections of the society. So then that way we need to bring in more people from the underprivileged sections, the marginalized sections of the society. Now, there is a conundrum, I have seen it particularly in the context of some of my friends who come from, say, some of the so-called backward states. the general tendency is that when you are there, you no more represent the community or the region for which you were perhaps selected. You rather tend to become mainstream. The tendency is to be part of the mainstream and not to highlight your individual identity. So in the process, what happens is that you end up doing what has always they have been doing. You also become part of it. Your representation in that platform should in fact be an opportunity to showcase, to highlight the struggles, the aspirations. But instead of that, you want to be part of the crowd. That is also another tendency that has been very closely observed. That if you are coming from a backward area of the country, you want to be in Delhi, you want to be in Mumbai, you want to be part of the Mumbai crowd, you want to be part of them, you want to integrate them with them, rather than project that unique identity of yours and highlight the aspirations, grievances of that area which you represent. So there is this tendency to go for to be part of the so-called mainstream. You don't want to be a side stream. Okay. In fact, one of my students, he says that the tragedy is that so many of us come from the rural background, because we are talking about margins. But then the most aspirational thing for us is to have a flat in Delhi, have all the same facilities, and everything, and we don't want to go back. If at all we want to go back and build a house there. We want to go and show off our car, our vehicle, that look, now I have become successful there. Not to come back and do something for that. So one of my students, what he did was that he used to stay in a ashram-like place, and he used to eat at gurdwaras, langars at gurdwaras, and he would send back almost this entire amount of money he used to earn in Delhi, in a Delhi channel. He would send it back home to train other, people from his own background, so that they can also come to Delhi. So that was his own way of empowering. And last week he met me, he told me that he was my student at Indian Institute of Mass Communication. And he told me that, sir, in the last 10 years or so, I have trained 46 youngsters. I have brought them from the village, from my village, and now they are working in different media houses. And the only commitment I took from them is that you will spend a quarter of your salary to train more youngsters from your village and bring them to, But again, the question is that in the process, is he depriving the village of the talent? Is he also contributing? He's undoubtedly doing a great work. But I asked him, because he is from Eastern UP, and I asked him कि अगर वहाँ के सब अच्छे लड़के लड़कियाँ दिल्ली आ जाएंगे तो गांव का क्या होगा, उस जिले का क्या होगा? In fact, on the contrary, you should be trying to facilitate them to get their due place in their own native place. That should be the effort. Rather than making them also migrants like you. You're doing a great work. But are we bridging the rural-urban divide, or are we contributing more to the migration to the urban areas? The skewed migration that you see. So we need to know that what kind of, so once you get representation, do they actually represent? For example, many people ask this question, in the political context, that how has Lalu Prasad becoming the chief minister, has it actually empowered the OBCs in Bihar? Or Mayawati becoming the chief minister in UP, did she work for her own enrichment? These are questions, I am not asking anything. Or did she actually do something, because she was projected as the first Dalit chief minister? Did she actually work for those, for the empowerment of the Dalits? Have their lot improved after she became the chief minister? So does it also mean that somebody coming from those backgrounds into the mainstream media, will they also become part and parcel of the existing system? Or they will bring about that change in attitude, they will bring about that change in mindset, they will bring about that change in coverage? Has it? And I think that I can, since Arindam is here, Arindam, if your students can actually do a study on this, that we always talk about that in the media you don't have representation of certain segments of the society. But those who are there, how are they contributing? What is their role? Or have they also got assimilated? Have they also accepted the status quo? Or are they doing something different? This needs to be studied. So this representation, because these are things which have not been studied, which we need to study if we want to understand, that what is the solution? Will more representation of the underprivileged, downtrodden, the exploited, the marginalized, will their increased representation in the media, will it lead to improvement in their lot, in their conditions? That is a question that we need to ask. But that has to be based on empirical data, on evidence. It cannot be based on rhetoric, that somebody will come, so they will change the whole scenario. No, it does not happen like that. What is the scientific basis on which we can make such statement? And if they do make, then how to bring in more people? There has to be a way out. Can we have media schools like these who can give some kind of, governments of course have reservation policy. Maybe we need to encourage more people from these segments to become media persons, because that is certainly not their first choice. Because their first choice is livelihood. Media is a luxury that they cannot afford, a job in the media. A job in the media generally is afforded, generally by affordable only for the middle class. Somebody coming from a very, very deprived background doesn't certainly prefer media as the first vocation of his choice, because of the uncertainties of the job market. For them, a stable job is the first priority, because they need a steady income. So, without getting into these, we cannot rush into any conclusion. Second, we have talked about democratization of media. When you talk about democratization, then what is the kind of, I remember a debate where media, there was a leading television anchor. He has also worked in Doordarshan. And he said that we give what the people want. हम तो जनता को वही देते हैं जो जनता देखना चाहती है. So the first question is that tomorrow if the the people are going to ask for drugs. Are you going to give them drugs? Isn't media in the role of the leader? Or is media a follower? Should media be following public taste, or should media be developing public taste? This is the question that we should answer. That what is the role of media? Because taste can be developed. We were having Moody in lunch. But today, people hardly eat Moody for breakfast. Now people have Kellogg's. People have Kellogg's for breakfast. Because people have been told, they have been able to sell that this is the best thing you can have for breakfast. We have ignored our own traditional dishes and we have gone for it. Our national game is hockey. But hockey doesn't have much takers. In Bengal, there is a huge following for soccer. But at the national level, except for Bengal, Kerala and Northeast, you hardly see any craze for football. Why? Because somebody has to develop that taste in them. Cricket did not develop overnight. It was deliberately, consciously introduced in a planned way. The way tea was introduced in India, and now the entire India has become addicted to chai. Chai was never part of our culture. The British decided to sell it to us, and today we cannot live without chai. So, how to do it? That is the job of the media. What is the kind of narrative that we have to set? What are our priorities? So when will these priorities come? So one way is, as I said, that you have digital media which is going to accept, is going to highlight these contents. But are there going to be takers? Let us play the devil's advocate. I have got friends in the media at very senior positions. And they told me, boss, we have spent lakhs of rupees in producing quality programs on social issues, but there are no takers for those programs. We don't get TRP for that. We get TRP for crime stories. We get TRP for Saas Bahu and the City. People want to watch only these things. That is because we never developed the taste. We only developed the taste for these very superficial issues. We never developed a taste in them for quality media coverage. So that is why we have ended up with very substandard content today. So then there are a few newspapers which people say that yes, that is read by the upper class, the ruling elite. But other than that, the common man has been, in a way, dumped with junk. Now, why? Now, this demand has to come from within. That is also one aspect about which I would like to speak. That unless you demand, you as readers, we have stopped interacting with the media. There was a time when we used to have letters to the editor and such columns, where we used to ask questions to the editors, and they used to be published prominently. And even the criticism, they would of course have a couple of letters which were planted from inside, praising the great work that they are doing. There were letters actually written by staffers, and given fake names. I've seen that happening in front of me. But there used to be some criticism also which used to be published. There have been instances where editors have apologized. But we have stopped interacting with the media. We have stopped demanding from the media that why you are not covering this. We are getting into argument that, if they show the Prime Minister or the Chief Minister, we will also join the abuse brigade and we will either praise or attack. But are we questioning the media? That is important. The media is supposed to question. But are we questioning the media? Unless you question the media, this will not happen. That you need to ask them questions, very tough questions. That I am paying you, even if it is only 5 out of your 40 rupees. But why you are not covering this event? This was such a major event. How have you put this in the inside pages in one corner while you have not highlighted this big event? Why? You have to question the editorial judgment of the newspapers. That's not a Supreme Court judgment that is sacrosanct, that you have to accept. Even Supreme Court judgments can be challenged. Except that you cannot attribute any motives to the judges. Other than that, you can question the judgment, you can criticize the judgment. So why we are totally silent. In our conversations, we attack the media. In our conversations, we discuss about the media. But we don't write to media. We don't write to television channels. Once they realize it, it becomes a movement. That yes, the people are not going to accept whatever we say. I'll give you an instance. Because I am not saying this out of any, out of thin air, something like that. No. The Times of India, as part of its marketing strategy, started featuring semi-nude pictures. And there was a huge, of course, page 3 is fine. But then when it started getting into semi-nudes, readers started protesting. They said, we can't keep your newspaper in our drawing rooms. We have our children who are there in the drawing rooms. We cannot accept this. And they stopped it. They stopped it. Somewhere we have to say that we need to know about this. We need to talk about this. Why you are not covering this? Because at the end of the day, they have to sell their product. They cannot ignore your calls. So, I am always in favor of having readers' clubs. We should have more and more readers' clubs. Listeners' clubs for radio stations. And for television stations, we should have viewers' clubs. So, an NDTV viewers' club should be there. News 18 viewers club should be there, a TV9 viewers club should be there. And they should, like you have Rajinikanth fans club, but this fans club only worship. This viewers club should not be just worshipping. You should not be an extension of their marketing department. You should be questioning that we are your regular readers. You need to ask certain questions. Why you have given coverage like this? Because today the marketing department has taken over in almost all the newspapers. They decide. It is not the editorial department that decides anymore. The placement of the story, the space that a story has to be allotted is no more decided by the editorial department. It is decided by the marketing department. I used to have friends in, say, the Hindu where if you have an advertisement in the paper, they would say that cut down your story to 100 words, 150 words. But if that day there is no advertisement in that area, they would say that, okay, make it a 600-word story. So it is the marketing department which would decide what should be the length of the story. It is not the credibility of the story or the importance of the story which would decide, but it is the availability of the advertisement that would decide whether how a news is to be placed. The priority is no more the news. The priority is the placement of the advertisement. If the advertisement, there used to be a time when the front page of the newspaper was sacrosanct, inviolable. But today, only after 3-4 pages you can see the main page of the newspaper, You have to actually swift through 3 pages, then you will see the front page of the... That used to be the sacrosanct. They have compromised with the banner headlines. The banner headlines, the masthead. The masthead. I have seen some papers, Chairman Saab, where they have put an advertisement on the masthead. And the masthead, the size of the masthead has been... How can you compromise with the masthead? That is your identity. So much of commercialization has taken place. So unless we wake up, I always say one thing, and I think that Snehashish, I think it's my time is up. So so I have a flight to catch. So, but what I wanted to say is that you see, in a democracy, please remember, an enlightened electorate is the backbone of a democracy. Similarly, for a vibrant, dynamic media, you should have an enlightened readership, an enlightened viewership, and an enlightened listenership. Only when that viewership, listenership, and readership is enlightened will you start seeing the unseen, the invisible. Thank you.
Sir covered various aspects of when we say representing the unrepresented. So there can be such a wide area that can be covered, that was covered by KG sir. Thank you, KG, for once again for that. And we will surely try and do a project with the students. As you said, that it would be really nice. And now for the next speaker, I have requested Ujjalda that instead of speaking just on the topic of representing the unseen through the mass media, he is an expert on Satyajit Ray films. And Satyajit Ray, I think, was a master in representing the unrepresented, whether it is Hirak Rajat Deshe or Gupi Gain Bagabain or Aranya Dinratre, the role played by Simi Garewal or anyone, or Opu trilogy, whatever. So I've asked sir just to deviate from the main plenary topic and to delve on how Satyajit Ray was a representation of the masses in the real sense when he actually brought to fore people whom we want to forget. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Please come. একটা রেড বুল খাওয়া হাততালি হবে? হ্যাঁ।
I think my topic is very challenging and it's At the same time, it's very simple because in Calcutta, I think, in Kolkata, I think all of us are aware of the importance of the films made by Satyajit Ray. Interestingly, the entire film history, from Chaplin to Satyajit Ray and other directors of the last century, all the great almost all of the great films were made on the lives of the marginalized people. Remember, all the Chaplin's films, they were extremely successful commercially. People used to love watching Chaplin, and Chaplin at one time, I think he was a contemporary of Hitler and Einstein at the same time. He was the most popular face. He represented the Homo sapiens in the 20th century. I think he was more revered than Albert Einstein and Mahatma Gandhi. And that was the power of properly showing the lives of the marginalized people. Had Chaplin made films on the lives of the rich people, very well-to-do people with private jets and private aircrafts and big limousines and Mercedes, we can be rest assured, at least I am sure, that Chaplin would not have been so popular for the last, slightly more than 100 years, 110 years. So, it was the lives of the marginalized people that made Chaplin Charles Chaplin. And same applies to, say, other great directors like D.C. Akira Kurosawa, and you can make a list of your own favorites. All the important directors for the last, for the last 110 or 20 years, they became important for only one fact: they made films, realistic films, on the lives of the marginalized people, and that's how films itself as a medium became important. And that's why Lenin used to tell that film is the most important media in the 20th century. He properly realized it. But I think since 2000 and 2001, the things have been totally changed, mainly for the pressure given from the producers. Producers have become more important than the directors and creators and writers, etc., etc. That is the main cause of the film industry nowadays. It is the producers who dictate the outcome, the climax, the final sequences of all the films. I know it from my personal experience. Now let's come to Ray. Satyajit Ray actually followed the tradition that was introduced by Chaplin, Eisenstein, even by Laurel Hardy films, because all the Laurel Hardy films were made on two persons, on two men, and those two persons were almost always jobless. They didn't have jobs. And they didn't have any special talent, special quality to obtain a job. Even they were possibly not intelligent enough to create a kind of a small business. Whatever they tried to do, they invariably failed. Not because, because of the reason that they were idiots. The problem is the government in the US at that time was not able to accept these kind of jobless people, jobless youth. So it was, the problem was created mainly by the government, not by the jobless people. And Laurel and Hardy, the Juti, the pair became extremely popular, mainly and solely because they properly represented the lives and the pangs and pains of the jobless people. And I remember when Jean Renoir came to Calcutta, possibly in 1949 or 1950, Satyajit Ray used to meet him because his office was near to where Renoir used to stay in the then Calcutta. Jean Renoir, once François Truffaut wrote that Renoir at that time was the greatest director of the world. Arguably, obviously. And Renoir taught one very important thing, one important lesson to Ray, that what India lacks is the Indian elements in Indian cinema. The small temples, the banana trees, the flowers that grow in the fields, and so on and so forth. These are never shown in Indian cinema, and that was the main lacking. And it was not Renoir who first taught it to Ray. It was Nandalal Bose, who was the art teacher of Satyajit Ray, who taught it, who taught this lesson to Ray in Shantiniketan, in Kala Bhavan, where Ray went to learn Indian painting, Indian style of Bengal style of painting, and there he learned the importance of the local elements that make any art, any literature, stories, cinema, plays, everything important. You have to be very local. And localized means marginalized. Anything local is marginalized by big medias, by international medias like Stars. I don't know, I actually forget the names because I'm not a TV watcher, not an avid TV watcher. Everything has been pushed away behind the pushed away outside the room, mainly because the international media doesn't really want to expose the reality or the plight of the common people. And following the tradition of the great cinema, Ray started making films on the Bengal village, and we have seen, we all have seen the film Pothir Pachali and the Opu trilogy. Pothir Pachali was a profound expression of the marginalized people, and possibly till now it's the most sensitive expression of the marginalized people. If you remember the old aunt who was called Indir Thakurun, she was more than 80 or 80 that time. And Indir Thakurun represented, she symbolized Bengal. As Ritik Ghatak said, she was a spirit of Bengal properly represented by Ray. So, that old lady, old aunt, she was the first proper representation of the marginalized people in Indian cinema. Before that, obviously marginalized people used to come and go in cinema, but they were not realistically depicted. Never. They were dramatized, there were makeups and everything, the with poetic dialogues and everything. They were not properly represented, but in Oppo trilogy, it was the first film. The old lady was the first character who was properly, realistically, both outwardly and inwardly represented in Indian cinema, if not in the world cinema, because Pather Panchali is much, much more sensitive than the international films made in that era in 1950s. Because Pather Panchali was not really symbolic. It was a clear-cut, realistic representation that was necessary that time to make people aware of the pains and pangs and aspirations and struggles of real India. It was very important. It was very important. So the entire crop, the entire establishment, or should we call the myth of Satyajit Ray was created on his own style of depiction of marginalized people. Whatever he has ever done, he did everything. He created his own craft, his own art, his kind of language writing, his kind of photography and lighting. Everything was created mainly for created in search of a proper language, how to represent the marginalized people. For instance, take the example of a film called Pratidwandi. Pratidwandi in English was called The Adversary. It was made on the loneliness, on the struggle of a jobless young man. At the time in 1970, getting job was nearly impossible. Nearly impossible. There was no job except a few government posts. And Ray, in spite of, Ray was not really in touch with real people at that time. He was so famous. It was not easy, actually impossible for him to mingle with real jobless youth. In spite of the shortcoming, for some, possibly here comes the question of being a genius, he could represent properly, with total profundity, total depth of the pains and loneliness and the aimlessness of a jobless young man who was, that time, who was 25-year-old with no future visible in front of him. And his father died, his brother was an Naxalite, and his sister was trying to get promotions in a small company. But in front of him, all roads were blocked. And it made him gradually more angry. And the entire film, if we draw a curve, the entire film, it was properly depicted how his anger gradually increased and increased and increased. There was a fantastic symbolic sequence in the final stage of the film, More than 75 men, there was no woman, very interestingly, more than 75 men were, were waiting in front of the door of a government office. It was possibly the Botanical Survey of India, and the post vacancy was possibly one or two. And it was May, month of May. It was terribly hot, unbearably hot, and for 75 people, there was there was possibly 10 chairs or the arrangement of sitting. So at that time, the government officials were extremely cruel, extremely cruel. They did not understand how it felt to wait outside the room, wearing black coats and etc., etc. Anyway, once Ray showed a series of human beings, young people, they're waiting outside the room, outside the interview room, and there was a subtle dissolve showing a series of human skeletons were waiting for getting interviewed by the extremely cruel government officials. And it was a clear indication that they will go on waiting for centuries and centuries, for millenniums, for getting a job. And this shot, actually this sequence, this scene, this symbol, created a strong anger among the young people that I clearly remember this, because I was, at time I was in school in class 9. I used to study in class 9 that time, and all of us, all the friends of our school, they got very angry, and they got very depressed and distressed, watching the series of skeletons waiting just outside the interview room. And that was the reality. I think that is still the reality, and it may remain the reality. This is the main problem. Once a person gets the job and sits on the chair of an interviewer, he becomes cruel. That's the main problem. So the entire film industry entered the myth of Ray and Ritik Ghatak and Mridul Sen and Gautam Ghosh, all the great Indian directors. They spent their entire life showing the lives of the marginalized people. But how to show the marginalized people? The only one technique is start from a close-up. Start from a close-up. First, you have to choose a character. You have to choose a character which the people, the spectators will love, which you love, and try to understand the character very closely. And from the character, you slowly zoom out and zoom out and zoom out. And after 15 or 20 or 30 minutes, you start depicting the society. It's very important. You should start with one person, and it will save you from the normal tendency of generalization of human beings. Because our media has a tendency to generalize people, because whenever we see the evening news, these are the politicians, these are professors, these are elite, these are refugees, these kind of things. Because the main problem with media is media always generalizes, always. These are 1 million refugees coming from East Pakistan to settle in eastern India, in near Calcutta, near Bengal. We should try to avoid the generalization, because generalization is always wrong and it always destroys the normal human tendency to know the truth. So what is the solution? Solution is just do the opposite. Start from a close-up of the hand or face of the eye of one person of the big, huge group, and try to understand, try to observe with total affection the one person that you have chosen out from the crowd. And after having given an adequate time to that person, for 4, 5, or 6 minutes. There is, I can tell it, that how long spectators can stand one character, I don't know. But like in Charulata, 8 entire minutes silent were given to observe one lady, one very lonely lady, going from one room to other room, then coming back to the same room and going back to the other room. And the spectators were spellbound, and the film was commercially extremely successful, and it ran uninterruptedly in 1964, possibly for 65 weeks. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Why? Because the film started with a big close-up of 2 hands. If you remember Distant Thunder, Ashwini Shankar, the film on famine, the film started showing the left hand of a young lady. Just left hand, no face, left hand. And after we completed intimately observing the beauty of the left hand, the camera, the zoom slowly pulls back and turns slowly leftward, pan, and then we see Onongobo, who was played by the famous Bangladeshi actor whose name was Bobita. Actual name is Farida Akhtar, who was played by Farida Akhtar. But Farida Akhtar, means Bobita, was shown after we properly observe the left hand of the lady. Mind you, the film was actually the Second World War. But it was not started showing the strange moustache of a mad person called Mr. Hitler, or Mr. Mussolini, or Mr. Churchill. The film started with showing the left hand of an unknown, totally unknown Bengali wife. Here lies the magic of cinema, and in this way we can destroy the disease or the natural tendency of media people to generalize a crowd. These are refugees, these are professors, politicians, elites, cricketers, IPL people, these kind of things. And generalization always goes against knowledge. Generalization is the main enemy of getting knowledge. Look at the scientists. Scientists never generalize. When they observe a leaf or a flower of jova, I have forgotten the English name, hibiscus, the red flower, jova, they always try to observe the specialties of jova, of hibiscus. At the time, they always forget all the white flowers all the blue flowers like Aparajita, Noyantar and everything. When a scientist observes a hibiscus, he spends 10 or 15 long years to observe and analyze the petals of the hibiscus only. That's why scientists are so much successful. And that's why the media people, as a rule, are unsuccessful. Very sorry to say. This is the main reason. Because there was millions of miles of difference between the temperament of an Albert Einstein, of a Barton Russell, and between Rupert Murdoch. It's a very bad thing for me to say this, but it's real. You try to look at the intelligence of Einstein and Isaac Newton, and I don't know, say Ogilvy, who was he? Ogilvy and Murdoch and these kind of people, because they generalizes. They generalize. And generalization, I should repeat, is the main enemy of knowledge. Okay? So try to start from close up and then zoom back.
মার্জিনালাইজ নিয়ে কথা হচ্ছে, আমি জাস্ট দুটো খুব ছোট্ট এক্সাম্পল দেওয়ার পরে স্নেহাশিস স্যারকে বলবো টু বিগিন দ্য প্রেজেন্টেশনস। একটা হচ্ছে এই দুজনের কথা বলছি, দুটোই নিজের চোখে দেখা। একজন হচ্ছে দীপিকা কুমারী, আমাদের অলিম্পিয়ান, রিকার্ভে গোল্ড পেয়েছে। দীপিকাকে একটা ইন্টারভিউতে জিজ্ঞেস করেছিলাম যে তুমি টাটা আর্চারি একাডেমিতে কেন জয়েন করেছিলে, বলেছিল দুবেলা পেট ভরে খাবো আর একটা বাথরুম আছে বলে। তার টাটা আর্চারি একাডেমিতে জয়েন করেনি অলিম্পিয়ান হবে বলে বা কোনো সময় আর্চারিতে গোল্ড পাবে বলে। সে দুবেলা পেট ভরে খেতে পারবে, একটা বাথরুম আছে সেজন্য। এইটা একটা। আর একটা মার্জিনাল থট যেটা আমার মনে সবসময় আসে, সেটা হচ্ছে দ্য আইডিয়া অফ বিং মার্জিনালাইজড। দি আইডিয়া অফ বিং মার্জিনালাইজড। আর এটাতেও সত্যজিৎ রায়কেই কোট করে একটা কথা বলছি, শতরঞ্জ কি খিলাড়ি। যখন সারা দেশে একটা টার্ময়েল চলছে, তখন কি করে দুটো মানুষ নিজেদের মার্জিনালাইজ করে ফেলতে পারে থ্রু অ্যান আইডিওলজি। সো মার্জিনালাইজ বলতে আমরা খালি প্রান্তিক মানুষ নয়, প্রান্তিক চিন্তাধারাও অবশ্যই একটা মার্জিনালাইজের একটা সংক্রমণ। সো স্নেহাশিস স্যার, আমার স্যার ইউনিভার্সিটিতে, এবং স্যার আজকে সারাদিন আমাকে আমার নিকনেমে ডাকেনি, আমি খুব খুশি।
I'm fully prepared. Only one thing I have prepared before coming, that I will call him Professor Bose. Well, thank you very much, respected Mr. Singh and Professor Chakraborty. And my dear friends, I'll not take a single second to speak anything. Lot of things have been said on marginalized, unseen, etc. We need to cover all these papers because this is an academic seminar and conference. I would like to call upon Srijita Kundar. Srijita is here? Yes. Her name of her topic is, paper is Stereotyping of the Marginalized in Media. I'll have to say that we all have to go home. All good things should end for today so that it can begin tomorrow. And the keynote speakers, we allowed them to speak because it was an enriching experience. I know the papers are also enriching, but still we have to stick to our time. I have been told that each paper presenter will get 8 minutes time. So after 6 minutes, somebody will help me in giving an indication. And after that, 2 minutes, we'll have to wind up. So there are 7 papers here. So the stereotyping of the marginalized in media, Srijita Kandar of Rabindra Bharati University. Srijita ma'am.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is truly an honor for me to stand here at the 4th National Conclave organized by Sister Nivedita University. I deeply feel grateful for this opportunity to present my paper before such an esteemed gathering of scholars, experts, and fellow participants. I sincerely thank the organizers and the university for giving me this chance. So without further ado, I would like to present. My paper is Stereotyping of the Marginalized in India, in the media, sorry. So, stereotyping in media is regarded as a complex and pervasive issue that includes far-reaching consequences on societal attitudes, identity, and representation. Preservation of stereotypes is attributed to various factors such as historical context, cultural influences, and power dynamics. History of media stereotyping is deep-rooted into the past of traditional media itself. In fact, media has been playing a substantial role in forming perceptions and cultural attitudes from early days to present historically. Media depends on stereotypes to rapidly convey cultural backgrounds or character traits, simplifying multifaceted identities into tropes that are easily recognizable. This study critically examines how various forms of media, such as films, television, news media, and digital platforms, which can portray marginalized communities through reductive or stereotypical representations. Portrayal of demoted groups in Indian media, especially Dalits, Adivasis or indigenous people, and women is influenced by social hierarchies rooted in caste, gender, and class. In 19th century, Indian newspapers such as The Hindu and The Indian Mirror were established and operated by upper caste editors and writers. They portrayed Dalits and other relegated communities negatively and reinforced entrenched caste biases by depicting them as a criminal or intellectually inferior community. Since 20th century, Bollywood Since 20th century, Bollywood followed these patterns of stereotyping, and Dalit and lower caste characters were depicted as caricatures of victims, comic relief, or villains. Stereotypes in mass media are overgeneralized beliefs about downgraded groups of people that can lead to prejudices. Indian cinema, especially Bollywood, appear Dalit characters in stereotypical roles either as victims of oppression or peripheral figures without agency. Adivasi women also face misinterpretation in these movies that emphasize vulnerability or hypersexualization. For example, Lagan exemplified dehumanizing nature of Savarna people. Early age Indian cinema rigidly defined gender roles and subsequently confined female characters to a narrow set of stereotypes like the dutiful wife, tragic heroine, or rebellious woman. For example, Mughal-e-Azam of 1960 and Pakiza of 1972 illustrated idealized and passive women, which embodied the diligence in women slightly. From the perspective of religious minority, Muslim genre cinemas during 1950s to early 1980s focused on Islamic culture. However, later it deteriorated to stereotypical representations that reduced Muslim portrayals to feudal landowners, villains and gangsters, anti-national or anti-social characters. On a contrary note, Sikhs are conventionally stereotyped as brave warriors and Christian women as archetypal fallen women. In the context of Indian media, this theory helps to analyze how downgraded groups like Dalits, Adivasis, and minority women face stereotypes that cannot be understood in media representations. In addition, Gramsci's theory of cultural hegemony elucidates how dominant social groups maintain power through the cultural institutions and media. This study incorporates secondary qualitative research methodology, which involves analysis of the existing qualitative data and literature. This data collection method is convenient rather than collection of primary data. Previously gathered materials reutilized here, such as academic journal articles, media content analysis, case-based reports, and hence this approach is useful for examining complex social phenomena and understanding the characteristics of historical and contemporary media. Dalit media is emerged as a significant force recently as they provide a platform so that marginalized voices are to be heard. Dalit-centered media outlets such as Dalit Camera and Roundtable India played critical role in creating consciousness about caste-based discriminations. Indian movies are derived from a large realm of Bollywood or regional cinema industries like Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Bengal, and so forth. Although female representation is increased, inherent sexism has been cultivated. In older cinemas, female characters or leads were typically romantic interest, wife of male leads, or mother. The concept of adding beautiful reliefs in difficulties and real-life struggles faced by heroes was raised later.
Last 2 minutes.
Stereotypes catalyze issues with social exclusion as they perpetuating negative perceptions that mark marginalized groups as inferior, or criminal. Stereotyping of marginalized communities in Indian media is considered as an inescapable issue that reflects enduring influence of caste, class, and gender hierarchies. Portrayal on TV serial, television, digital media, and cinema from different genres strengthen social exclusion, stigmatization, and systematic inequality. This research has demonstrated that theoretical viewpoints such as intersectionality and cultural hegemony are crucial for understanding persistence of harmful stereotypes. It is necessary to make effective change in media ownership, newsroom diversity, and storytelling practices, which depends solely on secondary data collection limit research findings. Thank you so much for hearing me out and for being patient. Thank you so
very
much.
much for concluding in time. Can I have just one question?
Yes.
You have been referring to Dalits. How do you define a Dalit?
A person who is not given a chance to make themselves present on mainstream society, even though being a Hindu. So they are the minority section among the Hindus, being a part of the nation. And although they are coming to the mainstream medias now, but primarily it is through their voice, through autobiographies written by themselves. And now they are the only people who are still now repeatedly being bullied by mainstream societies, by us to some extent, although they are trying to come back to the mainstream society.
Thank you very much. I have a small announcement for all the paper presenters.
Thank you, sir.
You
Thank you.
kindly stay back because there will be a group photograph after all the speakers are through. The next paper presenter is Mr. Shobik Shur of Sister Nivedita University. The title of his paper is Frames Between the Lines, Post-Production Aesthetics and the Representation of the Unseen. Yes, Mr. Shur.
Yes. So, can I get the PPT, Kingshuk?
It is a post-production glitch.
Might be.
Yeah, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My topic is Frames Between the Lines, Post-Production as Aesthetic and the Representation of the Unseen. Yes. Okay. Starting with my paper is that everyone talks about cinematography, direction, pre-production in which everything gets a value to it, but post-production, be it video editing or color correction, has also has its importance to it. It is not just the technical part. It adds, you have to give your mind and you have to think while editing. And for this, I have uh, uh, done a research on how post-production in editing only, video editing, has its importance while you edit the video, but this is for the marginalized groups, and how this editing becomes difficult or has been difficult in the films. So this research focus on the politics of creation and distributing, including to get whose stories are told and how these stories are delivered. Especially for the marginalized communities. Okay. My research objective is to understand the recurring pattern in editing decision and their impact, to understand how it is different audience perceive this audiovisual pertaining to the marginalized group. And third is analyze editing policy influence to the representation of the marginalized group. From this, the research question which comes up, what are the pattern and decision made to the post-production for the audiovisual representation of the marginalized community? How do different audience perceive this audiovisuals, and how does editing policy influence the portrayal of the marginalized group? The literature review in which, okay, the literature review, there is 6 points in which, let me come very short to it because there is a time constraint to it. 6 minutes, sir, if I'm not wrong. Yes, 6 minutes. So we always go for the films, or we see films in which there is excellent shots, camera movement, there are a great kind of dolly shot, long shot, but there is also an importance of this editing. Why these videos or these shots has been taken? Why this part of the video is taken, and why is not this taken? In respect to the marginalized, for the editing, first point is my editing as site for the political representation. Post-production choices shape how the marginalized voice are seen. If I give an example to it, Jai Bhim Comrade is a cinema in 2012 it happened, and in which the marginalized community people's video was shown in a long take. If we go in films or any of the movies, that their shots are being cut short. Their portrait is shown in such a way that, okay, they are not so important to the society. Second point I have taken, editing as a cultural translation, in which I tried to showcase that the rough edge of this marginalized communities is important, or the polished society that we see is which is more important? Is the marginalized community or the polished society? Third point that I want to say is towards the critical pedagogy of the post-production, in which a critical pedagogy would train an editor to recognize their role in shaping the narrative agency and visibility. This means the editor would not act as only a technical person, but he or she has the ability, or might be having the ability, to think, and why should he or she keep this part. Fifth point that I want to share is the representation and the policy of visibility. That is, marginalized groups such as Dalit or the Adivasis are often silenced or shown as a victim. There are numerous cinemas or films that or documentaries that you can have a look in which there is media has not represented in a neutral way.
2 minutes left.
2 minutes left. Okay, let me come back to the research methodology. The quantitative and I have done a quantitative analysis. I have taken survey from 100 peoples. I couldn't take more than that. There was some questionnaires which was related to people who can easily understand, not related to the post-production, which can common people like us can also answer. From that, I got the key survey finding that 78% agree editing choice significantly impact the understanding of the marginalized community. 65% trust the raw footages, and 82% believes the filmmaker must prioritize community agency over the cinema standard. From this conclusion I want to draw is raw and minimal edited footage can empower the marginalized voices. Editor must be trained as a cultural mediator, not as a just technician. Audience recognize the editing choice, affect fairness, clarity, and emotion connection with the marginalized group. With that, I want to say thank you.
Thank you very much again for sticking to your time and wonderful presentation. You know, Ujjalda is here. Some of us believe that film is made on the editing table. Most of it, not only documentaries, but most of
Definitely.
the way you have concluded, the editor should not be should not remain as a technician.
Yeah.
It is his or her perception also comes into the along with the perception of the
Yes,
director.
yes.
And you have wonderfully selected some topic, and you have said that the raw life sketch of the marginalized and the polished urban elite society. You know, in the film, in celluloid, people, especially in commercial film, they look like to see the polished one.
Yes.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
With this, I call upon the next paper presenter, Orko Chakraborty of Adams University. His title of his paper is Media Imperialism in the Age of AI, a critical examination of soft power. Please.
Thank you. Respected chairs, distinguished scholars and the fellow participants, it's an honor to present inside my work, Media Imperialism in the Age of Artificial Intelligence and the Critical Examinations of Soft Power Strategies. The study engaged with the two central components of the situation, media imperialism and the soft power, the whole situating them to the transformative, the context of artificial intelligence. The age of AI, it's now a natural tool for the basic components and the social criteria. It shaped the flow, the information ecosystem right now. The recommendations of algorithms and the platforms such as YouTube, Netflix, TikTok amplify the Western content. Marginalizations of voices, the reproductive systems of the social criteria. That process is now in the new age of digital colonization. The little cultural economic benefits and the receive the global south become the perpetrate the concept. There is something, the new particular framework for the focusing like two basic countries like our USA and China, the projectors of AI-driven soft power that examine the resistance concept by the Asia, Africa, and the Latin America. The findings show the two-content strategy in the central control of the Chinese observation, that new content of the functions of diplomacy. And the research methodology that will be the most important and the most critical concept in this paper. I choose the methodology is a qualitative dominant process, the mixed method, the comparative case study design on the critical theory of paradigm. This is a popular sampling system in the two projective nations, USA and China. And the recipients nation like South Asia, Latin America, and Asia, and participations of policymaker and the local systems and the paper analytics. And in end, to address those challenges of economical and the social and cultural dynamics of our new age of communicational process, to addresses to the new age of UNESCO, European nation, and United States of America's owned the factors shares of UN. Artificial intelligence reshaping the global communication and responsibility the which the three technological strengthened to the equality of the depend of new age of media imperialism. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's very well thought of and very well structured, and especially I must compliment you for these presentations. The visuals speak for themselves. And you see the AI mediated cultural domination. You see, everything is now dominated by AI. What I would watch and what I would think and what would come to me, in spite of me asking for something to watch, some other things are coming to me. I'm totally controlled. My viewing is totally controlled by AI.
Algorithmic controls process right now in India also.
Algorithmic control process, and it's an AI or mediated cultural domination. It's a good area. Is this part of your PhD thesis?
Yes, sir.
Very good. Wish you all the very best.
My PhD thesis is press freedom.
Oh, not this one.
AI on press freedom in India right now.
Right, but not this one.
This is the side topic of this.
Side topic. Very good. Wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir.
The next is Soumyajit Sarkar of Jadavpur University. In Indian minorities and their ordeal in the light of the national media's pandemic coverage in a post-truth world. Soumyajit Sarkar of Jadavpur University, Department of Adult Continuing Education and Extension. Please go ahead. Your title is Indian Minorities and their Ordeal in the Light of the National Media's Pandemic Coverage in a Post-Truth World.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. My title is it's not moving. Which one? Okay. The title is Indian Minorities and their Ordeal in the Light of the National Media's Pandemic Coverage in a Post-Truth World. Introduction. Minorities in the Indian subcontinent, that is South Asia, have been hounded for years on the flimsiest of grounds. Their patriotism has been subject to endless examinations by the self-proclaimed nationalist crowd. This otherization is often reflected in the manner in which media portrays the minority communities regularly. The COVID-19 pandemic that brought the entire world to a standstill was no exception. In India, the Muslim community was held responsible for the spread of the contagious virus by leading media houses in a manner that bordered on xenophobia. This was typically true for the initial days of the pandemic when most were clueless about the way out of the crisis. The research paper tries to contextualize and dissect the post-truth circumstances in which a virus was weaponized by a large section of the media to target minority communities. It documents the effects of such misinformation or disinformation that has had on India's fraying social fabric. The study adopted a qualitative research methodology to explore the role of the state and media in the context of post-truth. Articles from newspapers, online portals, and magazines have come in handy. A content analysis approach has been employed to understand the complex power dynamics that are shaping the relationship between the media and the state. The study followed an exploratory research design aiming to understand the circumstances under which journalists are reporting on key issues under the sun. A comparative approach has helped in exposing the inherent biases and communal impulses of the media as evident during the reporting of super spreader events. Objectives of the study: to evaluate the role of the state and the media during the pandemic, to assess the role of misinformation or post-truth, to decipher how power play worked in that period, and to reveal the dangers of speaking truth to power. literature review. The literature review seeks to concentrate on the years directly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. The researcher has tried to make the review as comprehensive as possible while keeping the core topic in mind. The material that has been considered for research is of recent origin since the pandemic period began roughly 5.5 years back. Communalism and COVID, the meeting of the two viruses. Since the end of 2019, tempers had started rising in India as the government and the opposition clashed over the contentious Citizenship Amendment Act. The Delhi Assembly elections held a few months later were expectedly fraught with dog whistles. One would have expected the nations cutting across race, religion, caste, and language to unite in the face of a monumental tragedy, but that was not going to be the case. The Indian media hadn't played a responsible role in the run-up to the incendiary Delhi elections, which saw even senior leaders making head speeches to consolidate votes. The pandemic also was no exception. The Tablighi Jamaat episode. The Tablighi Jamaat, a little-known Islamic organization, shot to limelight for being a COVID super spreader. It held an annual religious congregation in March 2020 in the national capital. Though it was inaugurated on March 3rd, the date of conclusion remained unclear. In early April, it was reported that nearly 1/3 of the COVID cases recorded in India were somehow connected to the Jamaat. While the religious congregation was surely careless in its attitude, one can't simply brush aside underreporting and the sectarian coverage of some of the constituents of media, including social media. Hashtags like Corona Jihad and Corona Terrorists were promoted with the help of IT cells of certain political parties. Incendiary tweets and posts became the talk of the town. Rumors about Tablighi Jamaat members refusing to go into quarantine and attacking health workers and Hindus went viral. Mainstream media happily played along the dominant narrative of an Islamic conspiracy. An entire community was stereotyped for the reckless act of a few. The COVID virus had finally met its match in the communal virus. The consequences had started to be felt on the ground. When Delhi-based Mehboob Ali returned to his village after attending a Tablighi Jamaat conference in Bhopal, he was demonized as a corona terrorist by his neighbors, dragged into a field and beaten with sticks and stones. Social media platforms like WhatsApp acted as a major source of sectarian bile and misinformation. The post-truth of Muslims acting as COVID carriers with some ulterior motive gained currency. But why would anyone do that? Like masks and PPE kits, common sense too seemed to be in short supply. Interestingly, the Tablighi Jamaat was not the only group to have engineered mass congregations in the country. Many other gatherings took place in early March 2020 to late June 2020, but they sank without a trace. For example, in March 2020, the annual Hindu festival of Attakal Pongala took place in the state of Kerala. Women gathered in large numbers in the capital of Thiruvananthapuram. In 2020,
Last 2 minutes, please.
Yes. In 2021, another religious congregation took place. The Uttarakhand government organized the Kumbh Mela, one of the holiest religious congregations of Hindus on the banks of the Ganga in Haridwar. It turned out to be a super spreader. But unlike the Tablighi Jamaat incident, no one blamed the majority community for the reckless act of the government. Subject analysis. The subject analysis reveals the following points. Communalism is plaguing the Indian media. Speaking truth to power is becoming increasingly difficult. Something is also wrong with the proprietorship because most of the proprietors have vested interests in other businesses and they want to have a friendly relation with the higher echelons of power. Media is too busy with narrative building. Post-truth is becoming the byproduct. The media is busy setting agendas for the nation, hence it is mostly busy in narrative building and television rating points and online traffic. Anything that suits their agenda, fact or fiction, is being cultivated. Hence the arms of post-truth are gathering strength. Thank you.
Thank you very much for picking up a very interesting topic out of COVID. You see, the COVID has impacted each one of us directly or indirectly. It was in our lifetime, we haven't seen such kind of a thing. But when you looked at it in a completely different perspective, that media reporting, we were absorbing media reportings on a day-to-day basis. But how media reporting was biased and skewed, and when it talked about the Tablighi Jamaat and Kumbh Mela, and it is the post-truth, and it is the, media targeting the minority and making stereotypes. You have correctly and rightly picked up because all your observations are based on data. And the narrative building, and obviously you have found out the reasons for, because the ownership had something to do with their grouping where they belong to, and then the TRPs and the rating and the earnings, and obviously people wanted to go in the mainstream, what suits well, what sells well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
very
much, sir. Thank you.
The next paper presenter is Rageshri Shom of Sister Nivedita University. The title of her paper is Are We Seeing the Unseen? Social Media and Marginalized Art Traditions of India. Rageshri Shom of Sister Nivedita University. Ma'am, please go ahead. Your topic is Are We Seeing the Unseen? Social Media and Marginalized Art Traditions of India.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. I'll be presenting my paper, as sir said. It's titled, Are We Seeing the Unseen? Social Media and Marginalized Art Traditions of India. Social media platforms like Instagram, excuse me, do I press this? Yeah, okay. The side one? Okay, thank you. Social media platforms like Instagram has been one of the most powerful spaces for communication and cultural promotion today. But what we see online is not random. It is shaped by algorithms, and these algorithms are not neutral. They are biased, and they amplify some art forms while sidelining others, sometimes without us even realizing about it. My central question is that are all Indian art traditions reaching audiences equally in this digital era, or do algorithmic biases privilege some over others, and why? My hypothesis states that Instagram algorithms are not neutral. They tend to prioritize art traditions that are already visible, shaped by state recognition, commodification, and user engagement, while sidelining those that remain invisible due to factors like remoteness, stereotyping, eroding demographic density, and lack of patronage. For this research, I treated Instagram as a field site. Using digital ethnography, I conducted hashtag analysis like hashtag kalamkari, hashtag pithora, etc. I also observed algorithms like recommendations, boosted posts, and explore pages. Along with this, I used content analysis to see how traditions were adapted and portrayed, like being shown in fashion or decor, with filters, with makeover, with trendy music, and so on. Then I used comparative case studies of recognized versus marginalized traditions, and finally checked e-commerce platforms like Amazon and Flipkart to track commodification. Is it a problem? Yeah, okay, better, thank you. Right, Amazon and Flipkart to track commodification. Screenshots and graphs were used as raw evidences. Now I'll like to take you through two case studies of mine. The first one compares kalamkari and pithora painting and states that algorithms are not neutral. Kalamkari, a textile art tradition from Andhra Pradesh, has a rich courtly background and was GI tagged in 2013. GI tag stands for Geographical Indication Tag. Kalamkari has more than 1.2 million posts on Instagram and is highly commodified in fashion and decor. Pithora painting, on the other hand, is a tribal ritual art of Rathwa, Bhil, and Bhilala communities of Gujarat and Madhya Pradesh. It only received a GI tag in 2021. On Instagram, hashtag Pithora shows around 86.6K posts, but many of these aren't even about that painting. So in reality, the visibility might even be lower. Therefore, this gap is very striking. Despite both having GI tags, Pithora has only about 7% of Kalamkari's visibility. The 8-year gap in GI recognition gave Kalamkari a head start. Algorithms picked it up earlier, amplified it, and left art traditions like Pithora much behind. And when we add commodification to this scenario, for instance, Kalamkari's elaborate presence in apparels like dupatta, sari, bags, decor, etc., the gap even widens further, considering Pithora being highly uncommercialized. Thus, algorithms are biased and clearly privilege what is already visible. Now moving to the next one. My second case study takes 3 storytelling and ritual art traditions, Madhubani, Pattachitro, and Chitrakati. to state that commodification is the central driver that has largely increased algorithmic bias. Madhubani from Bihar was GI tagged in 2005 and is highly commodified, from saris to bed sheets to art kits and so on, and has about 690K posts. Patachitra from Odisha and Bengal, GI tagged in 2008, has medium visibility with around 60,000 posts and limited commodification, mostly as paintings. Chitrakati, on the other hand, a storytelling picture card tradition from Maharashtra, has no GI tag, no commodification, and is almost invisible online with just about 1,000 posts. To support this, I analyzed e-commerce platforms like Flipkart and Amazon. On these websites, as you can see, Madhubani prints came up in thousands of results across fashion and decor. For Pattachitra, the results were minimal. And for Chitrakati, I found absolutely nothing. Some digestive medicines came up. This shows that GI tag alone do not guarantee visibility. It is commodification that drives algorithms more, or else Pattachitra would have been similarly more visible, considering that it has been GI tagged for a long time now. Therefore, when an art tradition enters consumer interests, it engages wider audience, and algorithms then amplify that engagement. To conclude, algorithms are not neutral. They amplify what is already commodified and recognized, while marginalized art traditions risk invisibility. GI tags and state backing definitely help, but they are not enough. Without commodification and user engagement, art traditions remain sidelined. So if we want these traditions to survive in the digital age, we as audiences, scholars, institutions, communities, we must actively engage with them. Because at the end of the day, algorithms are built on what people choose to recognize. With that, I'll end my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your excellent presentations. Very interesting, ma'am. What exactly do you mean by commodification? No, did you push that button?
Do I push? Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yeah. Commodification as in going into the list of people's interest, commercialization of something, going into fashion, going into decor, something that people can buy, something that people can engage with. For a layman, if I am not from the art field or the art background, I as a layman will not actually be interested about or not know about these art forms.
Those artifacts which are already commodified will have higher chance to be
Placed
seen
in
the Instagram.
Yeah, because
And
yeah.
how much do you think the influence of GI tag, and you have shown that
Yes.
difference of 10 years of GI tag has resulted in higher and lesser presentation in Instagram.
Yes, sir.
What is the importance of GI tag, you think?
GI tag is more like a state recognition, like the government.
No, how does it help in getting more? I mean, does the algorithm pull the items which are GI tagged? Is that algorithm, does it work like that?
Not fully, sir, because obviously GI tag, as I said, it's not enough because it just helps you recognize something. Like Indian government would recognize something, but it won't actually help online visibility as such if it's not something that people can engage with.
Very interesting. It's not that GI tag, not that, some kind of a popularity. The brands which are already the artifacts which are already popular will have higher chance in the being placed. GI helps it, but not totally.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
you very much. Very nice area. Well, the next is Adrita Roy of Sister Nivedita University. The title of the paper is Toward an Inclusive Mental Health Ecosystem, Addressing Intersectional Stigma Through Community and Health Solutions. Paper presenter is Adrita Roy of Sister Nivedita University and Ruth Piendo Gonzalez of University of Valladolid, Spain, who is offline. The title is Toward an Inclusive Mental Health Ecosystem, Addressing Intersectional Stigma Through Community and Health Solutions. Yes, ma'am. Please proceed. Sorry, I made a mistake.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Adrita Roy. Um, I'm very honored to present my work, and it's just not my work. I have been working with Ruth Pinedo Gonzalez from University of Valladolid, whom I had the pleasure of working in Spain with. And my topic is toward an inclusive digital mental health ecosystem addressing intersectional stigma through mHealth in India. And we hope this talk sparks new conversations about how digital tools can reduce, not reinforce, mental health inequities. Oh, I'm so sorry. India is in the middle of a silent mental health crisis. More than 150 million people require care, but we have one of the world's largest treatment gaps, nearly 70%. Why? The biggest barrier isn't a shortage of professionals, it's stigma. Stigma intersects with structural inequalities, caste, gender, geography, and class. If we don't address stigma, even the best policies or technologies will fall short. So Crenshaw in 1989 reminds us that people don't experience disadvantage in isolation. Caste, gender, poverty, rural identity intersect to create unique forms of exclusion. In India, a Dalit woman from a rural area doesn't just face one barrier, she faces many all at once. We have taken the mental illness stigma framework, which categorizes 4 levels of, it is a multi-level process. I'll just move on to the, yeah. Stigma is also multi-layered. So according to Lincoln Phelan, it involves labeling, stereotyping, separation, status loss, and discrimination. In practice, that means a woman with depression may be called weak, separated from community life, and denied equal opportunities to deepen her suffering. Coming to the cultural dynamics, mental distress is often explained as karma, spirit possessions. I don't know if people are familiar or not. Many people are called, at least in not only just rural places, even in communities like ours, mad, and as if they have been possessed by spirits. And jharpuk koranao is a common thing that people often refer to that with. Biomedical explanations clash with indigenous beliefs, and for women, the double stigma of being mentally ill and defying traditional gender roles make caregiving seeking even harder. The result, concealment, delay, and normalization of bias. So where does digital health come in, which is my area of PhD research as well? India has one of the fastest growing digital ecosystems, mobile phones, apps. Online platforms are already reshaping healthcare access. Digital mental health can reduce stigma by offering anonymity, scaling psychoeducation, and connecting people beyond geography. But if we are not careful, we can also reproduce inequities. We have identified, according to the mental illness stigma framework, barriers in digital mental health. At the individual level, digital illiteracy and lack of awareness. At the community level, English-dominated apps that exclude all non-English speakers. At the structural level, the affordability of smartphones and data. So the challenge is not to digitize mental health, it is to democratize it. These are some of the multi-level digital strategies which we have sort of identified as possible solutions. So we propose at individual level, culturally adapted mobile apps, local language chatbots, and gamified CBT to help reduce internalized stigma. At an interpersonal level, moderated peer support groups, caregiving training via mobile, and digital storytelling that normalizes help seeking. At a community level, telepsychiatry integrated into primary care, upskilling ASHA workers, and also already Neemhans is in a project called Manas, which is doing the same. And stigma reduction campaigns on local platforms like ShareChat, Mod, societal and policy level subsidized devices and data privacy safeguards, and telecom partnerships to embed mental health in universal coverage. To conclude, stigma is intersectional and systemic. Digital health is not a magical solution, but it is a powerful opportunity. If designed with equity in mind, digital mental health can be transformative. But if we ignore local languages, affordability, and cultural realities, it risks reinforcing old divides. Our next steps include develop India-specific stigma measures for digital contexts, testing mHealth interventions through mixed methods, and learning from other LMCIs, which is low and medium income countries. In short, the future of mental health in India must be digital, but not just that, it should be inclusive and deeply local. Thank you. I look forward to your reflections and conversations about how we can shape a mental health ecosystem that belongs to everyone.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for taking up a topic which is a burning issue which concerns each one of us. Firstly, there's a huge stigma already in the stigma. If I have a problem physical, I'll go to a doctor. If I'm unwell mentally, I'm feeling disturbed, depressed, all these words I know, and there are certain things which are happening in myself which I don't know even. I don't go to a doctor. And if you tell me, I think as a chair, your behaviors are not good, kindly go to a doctor, I will say, how dare you say this? This is something which we all need to realize. It's a huge issue that many people are suffering, but we are unable to recognize. Secondly, what she has pointed out, that if one such person is a woman, he has doubly marginalized. One marginalization is due to being women, and another having a mental health issue. And thirdly, digital is the answer, but not totally. I think digital will help because it helps distantly. I won't have to disclose my identity. I won't have to go to someone. But if a proper app, and she has rightly said, if it is language friendly, culture friendly, then I might, like when I have discovered that I need some support, the digital support could be very good, provided it is made friendly and appropriate to the situation. Have I understood correctly?
Yes, sir, yes.
Thank
Absolutely.
you very much,
Thank
ma'am,
you so
for
much.
taking up such an important issue. And we talk about digitization, and digitization is the answer, but it's not in general. It has to be localized and appropriate. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
The next presenter is just a second. Dr. Monikinkini Basu of Sister Nivedita University. The topic of Dr. Basu is the power of minimalism in Amul advertisements. Reading advertisements in perspective. Dr. Monikinkini Basu.
Thank you, sir, for reading out the topic. Being the penultimate speaker, I don't want to bore you people to death. So I'll try to be very precise. And I've made a PPT. And actually, AI has made the PPT for me. So which one am I supposed to? Side one, okay. So I'll try to use it as less as possible. So this is about Amul, which talks about precision. So I will try to adhere to what my topic talks about. Amul's advertising campaigns presents us with a rare cultural phenomenon that invites analysis across the intersecting registers of aesthetics, economics, and theory. Its peculiar power lies in its mastery of minimalism, the ability to condense national humor, political commentary, and global reference into a starkly simple visual form. Each advertisement, typically featuring the iconic Amul girl set against a plain backdrop with a pun-laden slogan, appears to offer nothing more than wit, yet beneath this apparent playfulness lies a dense concentration of symbolic work. Amul's campaigns do far more than sell butter. They articulate cultural belonging, mediate the rhythms of everyday political life, and inscribe the consumption into the functions of a nationalist participation. To interpret Amul only as a case of a clever marketing would be to miss the theoretical significance. However, indeed, when we are framing this within Gaiety Board, Baudrillard, Baudru, Bhabha, Spivak, and Foucault, Amul emerges as a cultural depositive of neoliberal capitalism. Simultaneously a spectacle, simulacrum, cultural capital, post-colonial marker of identity, and a subtle form of consumer governance. So I'll just discuss a few aspects. Why is Amul exemplary in embodying this operation? So of course, we are talking about the notion of humor and cultural relevance. So we can talk about whether every advertisement that Amul makes is less about the product, but more about the contextual insertion into the national conversation. Whether a cricket match, an election outcome, a Bollywood release, or an international political flashpoint, Amul has become inseparable from the spectacle of media and society. Buying Amul is no longer a matter of taste alone, but of inhabiting the spectacle. The public's anticipation of the next Amul ad confirms what Gaiety Board says: we no longer expect products merely to function, but to participate in cultural meaning-making. Amul, through its minimalist design, embodies the intensive form of spectacle, where attention is captured by the succinct image and joke, and the commodity is consumed as part of the spectacle of the national life. Now, if we look at simulation, it extends to this further, where Baudrillard notes that under late capitalism, signs are detached from the reference and calculate the autonomous aspect of it. So Amul's advertising illustrates precisely the detachment of the audience from a particular product. With the iconic figure of the woman, the girl, or Amul girl, popularly known as, it has become a hyperreal sign in itself, a cultural persona whose presence guarantees weight regardless of the link to actual consumption. Now, paradoxically, this butter vanishes into its own sign system, and the consumers buy into the sign as much as, if not more than, the object. Baudrillard's hyperreal is thus not an abstraction, but a lived experience in the recognition of the Amul poster. Now, while I was scrolling through all of these slides, I am sure you are looking for one or two of the posters, which I have intentionally not put here. Because that is what Amul does. It does not give you what you are looking for, and gives you the pun required with the familiarity of the political figure, cricketing context, or the idioms of cinema. The humor is not universal, but it is coded, rewarding those who are culturally literate and are enabled to the recognition. Thus, the symbiosis explains the depth of Amul's loyalty. The brand successfully converts the symbolic reward of recognition into repeat economic transaction. Minimalism, by presenting a single pun or joke uncluttered by any excess, crystallizes this exchange. At the same time, Amul's advertising can be examined within a post-colonial framework, which I have dealt with in my larger paper, which I'm not going into, because it talks about what Bhabha terms as the third space of cultural negotiation. Thereby, the global capitalism is re-articulated in distinctly Indian accents. Minimalism serves this hybridity by foregrounding the joke itself. The stripe of ornate graphics and bilingual or colloquial pun is left to perform the cultural negotiation visibly. So we move to the last part, where Spivak says that the dominant representations erase the laboring subaltern subjects who underpin cultural production. We all know, can the subaltern speak? Thus, Amul, with the weight, advertising obscure socio-economic realities of dairy productions, the cooperative movements, the labor of women farmers, and the agrarian struggle, has been smiling away with the girl on the poster, and that remains visible only while the brand remains the sustainable cooperative as a part of the cooperative industry. This duality, yes, sir, I'll just conclude. This duality, or the assertion of identity and erasure of the materiality, connects Amul decisively to neoliberal capitalism, and as Foucault in The Birth of Biopolitics identifies neoliberalism as a form of governmentality that organizes human life through economic rationalities, the brand functions merely as a commercial entity, but as the cultural governors shaping subjectivity and selfhood. I'm not going into the further details of this. It was a huge slide, actually. So sorry for cutting short. And we are back. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. As you have rightly said, all of us became eager to see at least some of the ads, and you
I
deliberately-
intentionally removed all the
intentionally and
photographs.
deliberately, you did not use it. You see, that's the teaser of an ad. When we talk about Amul advertisements, we would like to see some of the ads, but she deliberately done away with it. That there must have been a purpose. Well, this is an ad where, as she said, the product is not the most important highlight. It is the contextuality. And obviously, the national and international and basically the simplicity and clarity of the ad. But what she tried to theorize. One side, the cultural capital, and another side is neoliberalization. It's a different look at the Amul ads. Obviously, it celebrated 50th Golden Jubilee, I think.
Yes,
there
and
was a
also
booklet
because,
published.
yes, sir, because I am from a cultural studies background. I teach in the Department of English. So I'm trying to look at media from the perspective of somebody who is into theory and only academic learning. So I'm trying to look at it from the other side. So that is why this is a small endeavor.
Those of us who are the recipients of the ads also must be exposed to the theoretical framework of which you have very elaborately and very nicely have made. You have brought in Foucault, you have brought all others. That's what is the theoretical perspective. We see ad, we get attracted, and what one purpose, we buy the product. But this is an ad which is sustained, but which is not directly related to buying products, but it has, caught the eyeballs of everyone. Thank you very much. The girl has a name, I believe.
No, she's called the Amul girl. Yes. And actually,
Just a little bit of trivia. Does anyone know who's the Amul girl made after? So, the Amul girl is actually Shashi Tharoor's younger sister, Shobha Tharoor.
Shobha Tharoor.
She was a 3-year-old baby. She was selected from among 50 other model pictures that had come, baby pictures, and Sylvester Dacuna took that girl and gave her a dash of blue in the hair and gave her a polka dot dress and made her Amul girl.
yes, and I think this was the time when also the notion of auditioning for calendar girls or calendar babies was very popular. Like we have the Glaxo baby and all of that. So that is that particular. Yes, exactly so. So that iconography is also a part, and I think nostalgia can also be put in the paper.
Yes,
so
yes. Lot
that
of
has
nostalgia.
that is there in the
We have
conclusion.
grown up with these ads.
Yes. So what
We are
Orindamda
eager
said
to-
is there in the conclusion of the
Yes.
paper. So
Yes.
that is there. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Looking at it in a completely different perspective, which, enhances our understanding. Thank you
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, I call upon the last paper presenter, বসুপ্রিয়া চট্টোপাধ্যায়, রূপঙ্কর সাহা, তুনু ঘোষাল of Sister Nivedita University. The topic is Media Trial and Rights of Accused, Challenges and Prescript in the Light of Criminal Jurisprudence of India. Be very careful. All the lawyers of future are there. Already they can institute a case against you. Yes, please go ahead. Please say the topic once again and then you go ahead.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon to all the respected faculty members present here. Good afternoon to our chairperson and all the students of School of Law and other departments of Sister Nivedita University present here. We are going to discuss, this is a working paper, so we are going to discuss about media trial and rights of accused. And as we have pointed out in our slide, that challenges and prescript in the light of criminal jurisprudence in India. Actually, as we all know, that in criminal jurisprudence, this is a very simple notion that we all know, that every person is treated or is used to be treated as an innocent one until proven guilty. Just বাংলায় যদি বলতে হয় সবাইকে আমরা ততক্ষণ অবধি ইনোসেন্ট ভাববো যতক্ষণ না পর্যন্ত আমরা তাকে দোষী হিসেবে প্রমাণিত করতে পারছি। And convicted and accused, these two terms are not synonymous. So in criminal jurisprudence, as I have my specialization in criminal law in my undergraduate studies, I have seen that media trial specifically affects proper justice delivery system in our country. Now, what is media trial? The first thing is that if I refer the actual words there in the Google, that media trial is the impact of television, newspapers, and social media on a person's reputation. I repeat, a person's reputation by creating a widespread perception. Now, I think in sociology, there is a wide-known theory, that is a labeling theory. When a person has been accused in any criminal case, then he is treated as a person who would undergo in a trial. And after trial, if there are proper evidences, then a person would be treated as a convicted one and he would be sentenced as per the criminal jurisprudence in India. But what happens that media also have a parallel trial system in recent scenario, and this has been continuing from 1980s, 1975 and so on. After independence, this media trial and digital media after 1990s had widespread enhanced this concept of media trial. And for this media trial, we are facing a problem that the fair trial, the proper fair trial of any person, whether it may be a victim or whether it may be an accused, both are in challenge, but mainly the right of an accused faces a question mark. Because as you all know, that we have the Constitution of India. The Constitution of India is nothing but the law of the land. And as per Constitution of India, Article 21 guarantees the right of liberty to all persons. And also, media is also have the power of right to freedom of speech and expression by the virtue of Article 19, Clause 1, Subclause A. So, media is also under the privilege of Constitution of India, and all persons mean whether it may be an victim, whether it may be an accused, whether it may be a company, whether it may be any person, any artificial person as well. They are also protected under Constitution of India. There are articles in Constitution of India, those who give protection to any persons. So, the media trial and criminal jurisprudence in India specifically are now in a challenging situation. How? That would be discussed by my co-author Rupankar Shah. But in a nutshell, which I have already said, that media trial is creating a hindrance upon the modern criminal jurisprudence. Now, I would request Rupankar to explain further.
Thank you, Basupriyoda. Now I want to come in the most important and crucial part of our research paper. That is because of the media trial, how the accused persons, they are facing challenges and, how it is violating the right to privacy. So why I'm saying this, because as my co-author have previously already said that in our legal field, there is a one of the most important principle that we follow, that is an individual is innocent until proven guilty. So when we are presuming a person is innocent, so that person have all those rights that a ordinary person have, except few. One of the most important right, that is right to privacy, which is given under the Article 21. It is not expressly stated in our constitution, but it is an inherent part of the Article 21, which is the right to life and personal liberty. Regarding that, I want to come in my various heads. That first is pre-trial condemnation. Media coverage often treats an accused person as a criminal from the moment of the accusation. Suppose if we presume there is one person, he is alleged that he has committed rape. Suppose he has committed rape, but whether that person actually committed that crime or not, in our, if I say in through the eyes of the law, then this is the responsibility of the judiciary. This is the sub judice matter. But in media, pre-trial condemnation, they only declare that person as a convicted person. Now I
2 minutes left.
So now I want to come the second point, that is public opinion as a verdict. The media's sensationalization reporting, often involving reenactments and biased opinions, obstructs the delivery of justice. Media houses effectively act as a juries, delivering their own verdicts and creating a negative public view of the accused. This can lend to a situation where the media's verdict become the final verdict of the public mind. Now my third point is irreparable damage of reputation. Now here I want to mention one landmark case, that is Johar Bar Singh Murthy versus Union of India. What was happened in this case? This person is born in India. So one allegation was arised against that person, that he has was committed any. That allegation was under the NDPS Act, Narcotics Related Act. But after the trial, the Delhi High Court declared that person as an innocent person. The High Court declared that, acquitted that person. But after that, when that person shifted to the abroad, then he was trying to get a job. So where he was going, so when he was going any interview, so the interviewer, they are searching their name and they are getting all those articles which was published by the media on that time. So he was not getting any kind of job. So this is one of the most challenges the accused person is facing. And the third point is creating prejudice. So because of this excessive media trial, the public opinion change. So when their public opinion change, they public become more furious. They are committing rallies. They are vandalizing everything.
Your time is over, but your
sir,
co-presenter is there.
sir,
You are the
2
being the
minutes, sir,
last
2 minutes.
speaker. Okay.
Okay, sir,
Don't
2
worry.
minutes. They are, okay. So what's the last slide? Okay, as my co-author already mentioned that this is a working paper, so through our paper we will explain various important cases of our country. Actually, they are the victim of the media trial. So we will explain all those things in our research paper, but all they are finally acquitted by the court. They are not actually there, but whatever allegation arise against
Acquitted
that.
by the trial court.
Exactly, sir. So now I want to invite my co-author.
Thank you, Rupankar. And very quickly, I just explain the recommendations with the conclusions because we throw the challenges, but there is here's a recommendation. The first, clear legal framework for the media coverage. And this, we already said, my co-author, that it is a working paper. So this also the remedies suggest in the Law Commission's 200 report and the multiple judicial pronouncement. Second, stricter enforcement of contempt of court and defamation law. So everything has certain rules and regulations. For example, everyone we witness of certain cases where a reporter comes to the victim house and asks their parents, তোমার কেমন মনে হচ্ছে, তুমি কি অনুভব করছো? This is very not even the unlawful, this is also the harassment of their families. There's this is also introduced my co-author, that is the violation of Article 20 and 21 of the Constitutions. And media, we know, the media is very powerful. If media and our law, it's combined, then it's create a huge impact on our society. So certain responsibility, certain responsibility and ethical reporting, so we need that. And with the conclusions, before the going the conclusions, I want to recommend the last recommendations, that is the public awareness initiatives. Everything we don't know, but if someone teach us how to do, what to do, and what should I trust or not, that should be the better in the field of journalism. Then I will conclude a matter, that is, that's already I said, that if media and law, it's combined, then that is fall a huge impact on our society. And before the ending my speech, I want to read out a line, that is, media is a brahmastra. One side, on one side, it drives reforms and development by exploding corruptions, and other side, it can be lead to destruction when misused and biased. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a very interesting working paper. And you know, as a student of journalism, this is something which we are required to know. It's basically a difference and a fight between the Article 19(1)(a), which is the speech of freedom of speech and expression, and the Article 21, which ensures the right to live and liberty. Now, how far I am going to say, suppose a person has been arrested on a particular charge, and then with the microphone I say that he has been arrested, he has done something, he has done, etc., etc. That means before the person is actually charged guilty, pronounced guilty, I am making him guilty, and the irreparable loss of his reputation. As you understand, reputation takes years together to be built, which can be lost by 1 second by a particular report. After 5 years or 6 months or 1 year, when the person is acquitted, that means he has been made free of the charge, no media comes and says that we have reported earlier that such and such is guilty as he has been arrested, but the person is acquitted. If it comes like this in an inside page, but when he has been arrested, it was covered in a huge manner in the front page. So these are the major issues, and as I said that they have mentioned the recommendation of the Law Commission, which says that the matter of sub judice should be applied till the time the person is arrested. Sub judice means once the matter is under trial, you cannot report anything, seven except the what has been said at the time of argument and in the court and the daily orders and things like that. So you cannot interpret, you have to be factual. So that sub judice is now from the trial time, not from the time of the arrest. The Law Commission's recommendation is that it should be implemented from the time of arrest. This is basically a right to privacy and the fight between right to privacy and freedom of speech and expression, which is enjoyed by the media. Media in our country does not have any special Freedom of Media Act and insurance, but it has all its freedom as enshrined in the Indian Constitution in Article 19(1)(a). Very well explained, but it's a very difficult issue. And especially it depends much on the media persons like us that how responsibly I would report when a person is related. And what happens is, the trial by media attracts the cases where either the accused or the person who has been attacked, either one is a high profile person. Otherwise, any such cases, in a theft case or any case of burglary, it doesn't happen. The names are there, nobody is going to do anything. But if it is one side is high profile, then it attracts the trial by media, and it has to be done very crucially, that in a very tightrope situation, that you have to preserve, always you have to use the word alleged, he has been arrested, under which section he has been arrested, whether the section of that particular charge has been given or not. This is very, very serious matter. As you have said, it's a working paper and it's a working issue of the journalist, and I am very happy that you have touched upon such an important point, which is a legal issue, but which is more predominant among the working journalists. Thank you very much. Well, ladies and gentlemen, respected Ujjalda and all the faculty members, I have been asked to sum up, but I will not do it because I know I little understand the value of time and your endurance, and you need to come tomorrow. I may not come, but you have to come tomorrow. So yes, please wait for the group picture. And I think the success of a national seminar, conference, conclave, depends on two things: that how many high profile speakers you can rope in, and how do they speak and how enlightened you are. This is one factor. The second factor is the research papers. All the papers were, I must say, excellent and very well structured, well researched, and the PPT presentations are very good. This gives the present student a learning experience. Maybe next year you have to come up in presenting the paper. Your PPT has to look good, your study has to be well researched, and you have to deliver well. So this gives you a learning platform. At the same time, it brings a huge repository. And the third thing of the success of a seminar is the compendium of the papers of the third conclave was published in the fourth conclave. It is very well produced conference paper. All the important well-researched papers are there in one folder, so you can easily get it. So these three things are the success points. And I must compliment, not that they have given me this opportunity to speak on this platform, but it's a very serious matter. It's not very easy. What we see 3 days, they are backed up by planning and meticulous executions with a little bit of faux pas. You see, you cannot zero it down, the faux pas. The faux pas will all be there, but how good you are in minimizing the faux pas and you hold it well. I compliment Minal, Orindom, the Shoikot, Jumur, Shobik and all others, and the new ones, Oprotim and all others. I think he must be busy in the online, as I understand. Yes. So it's a very tiresome effort, but they are taking this effort for you only, for the students, because you are exposed to. And this, in a subconscious mind, you learn a lot of things. Like when I was listening to Ujjalda, I have never thought of imagining Ashwini Sanket like this. These film appreciations are opening the frames in front of us in a new manner, and excellent the way, and like the Amul one and the all others, the COVID and the minorities, all these papers were very well researched, well presented, PowerPoints were good, and I'm very happy to be here, but I don't know whether I could do justice to all the paper presenters in giving my short interpretations and interactions. May I invite all the paper presenters and the keynote speaker, Ujjalda, on stage, and all the faculty members, please, for a group photograph, for a documentation.
While everyone is coming and taking their position, I want to put it on record that we wanted Snehashizda for another day. Snehashizda, we wanted you for another day, and Snehashizda did not find time. I want to put it on record, and next conclave he has to give us 2 days. So that's a promise I'm taking from you. Absolutely. এসো এসো সবাই চলে এসো সৌভিককে ডাক ও পাশে এসে গেছে এদিকে 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 বসুপ্রিয় আমি আর মনে দাঁড়াচ্ছি কাউকে দাঁড়াতে হবে না না আমারটাতে ও জিওট্যাগ পারবে না ইয়ে নেই জিওট্যাগ যার নাম ভুলে গেছি তুই অঞ্জনা সব দিকে তাকা ঘোর ঘোরবই না হয়েছে কে তুলছিস তুই করছিস জিওট্যাগ আছে জিওট্যাগ তবে মসুপ্রিয় তুই যে 3টে কেস দেখিয়েছিস ওই 3টে একজনই সাংবাদিক করেছে যার গলা স্টুডিও থেকে চাঁদে শোনা যায় এই পাওয়া গেছে ওই 3টে কেস পাবলিক কন্টিনিউটি যার হয়ে গেল হ্যাঁ এইটাই যাবে ওইটাকে কি করে সৌভিক if you can come on Saturday and collect your certificates at the valedictory, I'll be very happy. So please make an effort to come on Saturday and collect your certificates.